Hello, this is Astara from Earth Mother Star Child, and today I'm going to talk about Awakeners. I've begun to offer mentoring sessions, one-to-one sessions, online or in person with Awakeners or people who are finding that they're going through a spiritual awakening at this time, or that they have been through a spiritual awakening and they're finding their way through the process, which is a bit like I guess opening a door to a whole new world that you didn't know was there. So I have had in my acupuncture practice and friendship circles quite a few Awakeners, and there seem to be very similar issues or problems that come up, and I kind of want to just mention a few of those while we're chatting on here, while I'm chatting to you on this podcast. And one of them is maybe the foundations of what it is to become a bit more aware of your sensitivity, maybe have a third eye awakening, maybe have a Kundalini experience, or just simply begin to become more sensitive or aware that you are living in a slightly different way to most people in the 3D. So often when people have these experiences, they've gone through life in a certain way. I'm kind of gathering the information that maybe they're the only one having this experience within their family, or if there was another experience, the family members don't talk about it. Sometimes there can be a lot of fear if people are going through a sort of spiritual awakening, because there can sometimes be, it can sort of feel like you're going a bit bonkers. And if there's been a spiritual awakening in the family where someone became unwell and no one really talks about it anymore, this creates like an ancestral fear around becoming sensitive or getting in contact with your psychic, spiritual or healing gift. I think the word gift is quite loaded, because I'm really of the understanding that every human being has the ability to see, perceive, hear, to know spirit, and to be aware of what's around us. In the 3D matrix, because of the nature of it, we have been restricted to visible light. But there is a lot of other beings, entities, frequencies that we can perceive and see if we use our inner knowing, our third eye. Often an awakening has something to do with the third eye, because it's a bit like living one way with a veil over our eyes, and then suddenly that veil gets lifted and we're able to see things we perhaps had never knew that were there. I mean, I have this conversation a lot about unicorns and fairies and mermaids with my daughters, and it's very interesting because I'll say to them, about the fairies, go look for the fairies, and my old one, who's now 8, will say, "Oh no, mummy, there's no such thing as fairies, blah 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 blah," and I go and I try and explain to her that they're in the different realms. They're in the realms which are that aren't visible to us, but that were definitely accessible to us if we know how to change our consciousness, change our mental state, intensify our feeling and our awareness through the heart. We can access those states and access those other spaces. I do it all the time. In fact, my own personal experience is that I did not have an awakening experience. I was always this way, although I did have a very difficult experience when I was 13 years of age, where I just went into an overwhelm situation. And what I discovered from that was that really I was a highly sensitive being who was in a very very difficult sort of situation, very one that this is the story that I'm hearing from most people, is that they're finding themselves in difficult environments with intensified sensitivity. This is actually the journey of most indigos who are now incarnated here on Earth, particularly ones my age or older. We have a lot more older than indigos than me. luckily for the rainbows and the star children and the crystal children that are coming now, hopefully their experience will be easier. But we're still seeing it. So it's good to acknowledge. So I'm going to ramble, as you can tell. I'll try not to ramble too much. This seems to be how my podcasts go. I come out with a plan of what I'm going to do and then end up talking about something else. So anyway, so these one-to-one mentoring sessions, we will cover like what happened in the spiritual awakening, because I think that's helpful to dissect it and just to understand a bit about where you're coming from. Then it's about really beginning to work on and understand what is your unique ability. Like, what would you like to work on? Is it contacting your spirit guides? Is it, is becoming more centered? Is it awakening through your chakras? Like, really beginning to understand who you are. And everyone is so different. I mean, I've worked with all sorts of people, and we're all from different planets and whole different planetary frequencies. We're from different realms. We're from different dimension realities. And, everyone is so different. So it's like really beginning to understand how complex and how amazing you really are, actually. Like, how amazing you really are. So that is one way to go and is part of it. But there are some fundamentals that probably need to come into place here. Because when we open our awareness, we're also opening our sensitivity, and we need to know how to protect ourselves. So one-to-one sessions often begin with talking about protection. How do we protect ourselves as sensitive beings in a world that has been very harsh in many ways? This is changing, but we are still in the intersection between the change. So it's good to be just aware of what's going on, and a lot of protection mechanisms that we've used in the past we're not going to have to use as we move into the new earth. So some of them are changing and updating, and sometimes the best thing to do is just get some basic routines going and learn how to do those, particularly when you're opening yourself up to work. It's good to find out if you want an emphasis on healing or psychic work or channeling, or just simply, like a good, healthy spiritual practice that feels right for you. So that's protection, daily spiritual practice, and another one is clearing, which links to our daily spiritual practice. Knowing how to clear your space, your physical space, your energetic space, knowing how to clear your energy fields, and being aware of having good, healthy psychic boundaries. And boundaries in general. I think boundaries is a huge one that comes up for spiritual people, and especially empathic people, because people, in the 3D, it's notorious that part of the nature of that system of working in the 3D has been all about abusive dynamics and relationships. So we can learn how to have healthy boundaries. Once we have healthy boundaries for ourselves, then hopefully we can maintain them and also encourage other people to be healthy in that way. So protection, finding out what your special skill is, finding out more about yourself, and clearing and healthy boundaries. And also these sessions are good if you just want to practice with someone. Sometimes we could do a little bit of one-on-one channeling, where we're kind of working with one another to access your ability in a very gentle, kind way. Often, when we're exploring this stuff, we need people who get what we're saying and who can be really considerate and understanding about this process, because it takes time. It takes time to trust, just like anything. Like if you learn to ride a bike, when you're beginning to talk to your spirit guide, you're like learning all the different factors. What am I actually talking to my spirit guide? What are they actually saying? And having the openness just to receive it and for it to be witnessed and talked about and discussed. That's a really good thing to do with a mentor. And also, in these mentoring sessions, any tricky questions that come up, because I don't know about you, but the more I look into this work, the more questions that come up, because we begin to look at the world from very different angles and look at our relationships from different angles and begin to maybe have an understanding of what it's, what the extra meanings could be. We're no longer just in a relationship with someone. We've got like these levels of karmic relationships and ancestral relationships and all sorts of other things going on. So sometimes it can just be nice to have someone else to just discuss and explore and get a viewpoint on what's going on. So also in these mentoring sessions, which is all about developing your ability and your awareness and helping you to, get more proficient and more self-confident in what you're doing, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's very helpful to go through fundamentals like the chakra system and talking about chakras and colours, and also the energy body in general. Sometimes if people are very empathic, working out how to get their energy flowing in a good way, how to get the daily routines in, can really help with just normal functioning and being able to thrive. Because it's very common, I notice, with people who go through an awakening, they've lived a very kind of 3D existence life, and maybe things have worked for them in that way of working, and then when they have an awakening, all of a sudden life just kind of spins out the window, and it's like, whoa, what's going on? Even just a normal day, it suddenly feels really strange and hard. And on what we're doing here, we're just setting new pathways. So it's quite nice to have someone else who can go, okay, this morning maybe you just need to clear this chakra, maybe you just need to go back to your daily practice and just get all your energy flowing in the right direction. And of course, you're no longer working so concentrated from the mental realm, coming in, which is my speciality, coming into the heart space, working more from the heart, begins to be a whole new way of being. And often, who's taught this by their parents, really? So this is like a relearning, a reparenting, a re-understanding of who we are, like a real reconnection to our authentic self. So it can just be really handy to have someone who can just bounce off, and just know that there's some sort of guidance in place for that process. So I'm going to wrap up there because I think I'm nearly done 15 minutes. But what I'm essentially offering is one-to-one mentoring sessions, usually done by, online by some kind of Skype or Zoom or something that's good for both of us. And the sessions are priced very cheaply. They're 1 hour is £35 English, and that really is just to so that you know that you can rely on it. You can go back to it even if you don't have much money, because a lot of people going through spiritual awakenings often don't have a lot of money. And it's just about guidance and really getting you on track to what you feel you need. Okay, so you can contact me, Earth Mother Star Child, which is www.earthmotherstarchild.co.uk. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on Spreaker, which is where I do these podcasts, on YouTube as well. That was the other one. And SoundCloud, I think we're on there as well. So we're everywhere. All you have to do is tap in and find me, and I'd love to hear from you. I've worked with all different people, and it's always exciting. I always grow from it, and I learn so much as well. So it's, everyone's helping each other in this situation. So I wish you all the luck in the world and all the love, especially as we move into the new earth, whatever you're dealing with at the moment. And I look forward to hearing from you. Okay. Blessings. Bye.